always, because you're going to spend, we have this instinct to jump on a story because our gut tells us, oh, this is what the buyers are looking for now, or oh, this is going to be, or I know how to write this. But eventually you're choosing a marriage that will last for 5 years, and if you didn't choose the one that you're extremely passionate about and you meet one burden, you're going to curse the day you started, you're going to hate the story eventually. And so, but it's not just choosing the one story that you know that is like, this is the one you either want to shout. One reason I want to shout something, not just I want to force a political idea on you, but I want to force us to think about something that we're not thinking. And the other ideas that I'm writing is things that I want to live in this world because this is my alter ego, because this is my escape. Now, I always tell writers I'm working with, let's think not just about why is it so crucial for us to tell this story, but also what is the one thing that has never been done in your idea. It can be the voice, a voice that had never been done, or maybe it was done, this voice was done successful in films but never been done on television. Or the set, a place that had never been done on television. Or the tone, the cross genres. I love cross genres. Now, we just finished a show about juvenile jail. We were talking yesterday about it's a prison with kids. It's a prison that I've been to when I was a journalist, by the way. But it's a prison with kids, 12 to 18-year-olds. And for 10 years I was trying to sell this and everyone said no to it. And then one day, I met a producer and she told me, you know that the stand-up comedian guy who is now successful, he changed his name, but when he was a kid, he was in prison and you came there as a journalist. I said, what? I didn't remember him. But I said, whoa, this is the cross-genre between, because all these executives were telling me, a prison with 12-year-olds to 18-year-olds is too dark. But when you brought the idea of, no, he's a comedian, he grew up to be a comedian in jail, and I knew, because I knew it's a cross-genre, I felt not only excited and I'm reinventing myself, or surprising myself, but also immediately felt, okay, I mean, since this is something that has not been done, I'm not going to believe in it for 10 years, the buyers will jump on it because it's unique, it's exploring something new. The other thing, and it also has to do with the idea of us surprising ourselves, is the fact that technically I need to surprise myself, meaning I need to fall in love with people who are different than me and new kinds of people. So I travel a lot. Every time I'm stuck with an idea or with inspiration or whatever. Although it's not, I mean, I am waking up at 5 a.m. to write. I have discipline, but when I'm stuck and I need inspiration, I go somewhere I've never been to, and I start walking for 7 hours with a notebook, and it can be, it would be best to go to a place that has an oxygen that you've never inhaled, you know what I mean, like a scent, a smell that is new to you. And I start walking like for 7 hours. And the reason, not only because, and I fall in love again with the human race, because I feel like when I'm in my building, and sometimes it will be a week, and I said, I didn't live the building for a week, but then I travel to China or somewhere, and I fall in love with the human race again. I mean, I want everyone to talk to me, but the thing is, the most crucial thing is the fact that we don't have time for a long thought anymore, right? A thought should last sometimes 7 hours but we get a text message or something interrupts us every 20 seconds. But a thought in drama is so complicated because you start thinking, okay, what if he turns here to the right? Let's explore that. No, it doesn't work. So I'm not sure, let's go another direction, etc. So you need a very long thought. So that's another type of a thing I'm telling writers, but there's so much more.
Your work is very based on reality, youth, wars, and you said, I'm quoting you a lot,
Thank you for this.
You don't want to create realism, but emotional realism. Is fiction more interesting than the reality? Can you talk more?
Oh, so it's because, I was typecast because my first film was about the war, and it's anti-war film. It was 20 years ago, but I was typecast as the guy who writes about war. But as an executive, I sold or packaged espionage shows to all of them. So since that moment, every time I stepped into an office in LA, and even in Europe, people were telling me, okay, so what's the next war story? What's the next espionage story? And I was typecast as the guy who can do only these things. So I became obsessed with trying to show myself and others that I can do other stuff. And because those shows that I wrote were very grounded stories, real grounded stories, and I had a film about a political assassin, which is, by the way, strangely, what usually I need to be really attracted to the characters in all ways, like sexually, emotionally, and this was the only time I was writing a character that I hated. It was a disgusting character. It was relatable in the sense that I knew why he's doing what he's doing. I was exploring why, but I couldn't stand this, and it was an awful process for me. And I go back to writing those I'm attracted to. But the thing is, because my first stories were so realistic and grounded, I needed to do something that is completely not realistic. So Euphoria, in a sense, was my struggle, and I was fighting. Maybe we'll talk about it later. For 7 years to convince LA to do Euphoria, and every single buyer said no to it. But for me, the idea was okay. It's not realism, and by the way, no one wears this type of makeup in reality. We know that, but it's not realism, but it's emotional realism. I need to understand why the characters are doing what they're doing, and you want to create a world that reflects or reveals what the characters that exist in this world wish the world looked like, and all of that. So I think the one, looking for the emotional truth is like the one and only important thing. But I would say, by the way, just because I was like crying all for 7 years, everyone said no. I mean, this is the way it works. I got used to it. I mean, my friend Matthew Weiner, who did Melhor, he wrote the pilot in 1994. It was aired in 2008, and even afterwards, you still get those endlessly, especially if you come with something that breaks out of it. So I'm not crying about it. I got used to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about artificial intelligence and creation, and I mean, we've been seeing a lot about that in the States, and how do you feel about that, which is a theme here?
Well, so especially after the strike, the writer's strike in LA, and in LA, I mean, you kind of are afraid to say the word AI, and executives are afraid to say the word AI. I can guess that in backstage things are different. But we all know that not just as humans, right? It's the first time in the evolution, right, in human race's history, that we don't know how 5 years from now will look like. I mean, in the past it was, you could say, I don't know how politically we're going to be conquered by another empire, but we always knew that the basic things about waking up in the morning and doing your agricultural work or whatever is your way of life, it will be there. And now we don't know how 5 years from now will look like. And we know that in our profession, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, probably all the commercials that we see will be made by AI without physical production. And we will be standing strong to make sure that it doesn't really burn the whole sacred idea of cinema. But I can imagine that in animation you will already see scripts written that way. So it's not like, but I don't know if it will be an open source very soon or it will take years and it will cost a lot. But eventually, I mean, we know where we're going, and we need to. And I think we all need to think, how do we make sure that this is not just controlled and regulated, but how we make sure that it is done for the best. Because it's not that I'm worried about, how are we going to make a living? I'm worried about the world in so much, the wider thing of it, right? And it's not just about, because sometimes I try, every time there is a new version of ChatGPT, I'm telling the ChatGPT, I'll give you a simple task. Simple, right? But write an episode for Law and Order, and now it doesn't do the job, let's say that. But I think that it's not about us worrying about our future, it's about our professional future, it's about us worrying about the world. One of the things that is, because what we all fight for is the fact that we want to believe that art can transform the world with the truth, and this is what we are fighting for. We are working out our grief and our rage and what we want to fight for, and then comes the era of the death of truth, which is AI is going to seal the final stamp on the death of truth. In the sense that, like when people are now saying, especially young people saying my truth or I choose to believe. Now you will have deep faith, and you will see everything that you will see for the first time in your life will never be a proof for anything. It will never be, because there's no proof in our. And so this is why journalism is to me separate these days more than ever. So, and I think democracies will never be able to survive without truth, because you will go to the polls and you will always choose to believe not only what supports your idea, but what sounds to you more interesting than you'll choose this idea over any real idea. So I'm worried about the AI and so many other aspects as well. This is why I think we need to deal with it. And we all should take into account that when a company launches ChatGPT-4, they already have in their laboratories ChatGPT-6, and we don't know what this thing is doing, but we do know that they are, and they're saying that they're not releasing things right now because they believe that maybe the human race is not ready for it, right? It sounds crazy, but it sounds stupid, but yeah, it is. So I'm worried in that aspect as well, not just about the writing.
And since you're talking about artificial intelligence, we should have the reflection and feel provoked. I love this sentence. And thinking about that, how do you deal with the algorithm demands on creation as a writer and as an executive also?
So first of all, the drama is not, so that when you write this format of a script, it can be either commercial or propaganda or just entertainment, but it turns into drama when you put the mirror up to your face and to the audience's face and make them feel disturbed. And it turns into a drama when you take risks. Now, our reality is, I can cry a lot over the algorithms, but I would have to say this. There are two different algorithms in our drama scripting profession. One algorithm is the drama algorithm, which we should have. I mean, I love it. It's like when Tarantino, go to Jungle, Tarantino's film Jungle. It's not just that he's obeying all the drama structure that we have since the Greek mythology and the Greek drama and theater, and the same exact structure of Nemo the Fish, Disney Pixar, or Meryl Streep, The Bridges of Madison County. But he's trying to have the plot point one, the midpoint, and the plot point two exactly on the minute, because he thinks this is our Bible. The drama is a magic and sacred magic that is our Bible. And a lot of this algorithm I love, because when you obey it, then you can get crazy and wild. For example, I do lots of rules to myself. For example, and I say, okay, a scene is not a scene, because we all write scenes that then feel, oh, it's bureaucratic. A scene is not a scene unless it obeys 2 out of 4 rules, or no, like missions. It has to, at least a scene should help you to achieve 2 missions. One, it has a conflict. Two different characters come with different agendas, and one changes another. Second, something happens, not in the sense that I'm doing something, but in the sense that we implant a mystery or a question that will be answered within a few minutes. So your audience stays because they know that within a few minutes they will get an answer on this. Because they're not staying because they want to see the end of the season in 10 episodes. They're there because they want to see a crucial answer. And it helps with, it supports the theme that you're trying to deal with, and it gives something new about the characters. If it's not doing 2 out of the 4, I delete this scene or combine it with another scene. So it's kind of a formula, and I'm trying to obey the formula, and I love the formulas, but that's the artistic algorithm. our problem is not the artistic algorithm, our problem is the business algorithms that are becoming, taking over and creating rules that sometimes I can understand them because I know that we need the audience and we need to survive financially, but the algorithms are killing creativity in so many ways. I don't think we'll get to that here, but algorithm is killing creativity and the competition is killing creativity in so many ways, because in the past in Hollywood there were years where, in cases where competition killed creativity, like in the broadcasters network, NBC, ABC, Fox, the era where they were afraid of, they couldn't even lose a point of rating a night, so they were going on the safest bet because the competition was so strong. And in other cases, the competition helped creativity, like the era of, by the way, after the 2008 crisis, where so many new channels like FX were trying to be powerhouse of high-end drama and imitate HBO, and suddenly you had very bold cross genres and invention. But right now, competition today, I think competition is killing creativity, especially in Hollywood. And the other thing is that kills the politically correctness, where you find yourself sitting very often around the table, and an executive would tell you, when you're describing a character or a plot twist, an executive will tell you, I'm afraid the audience will take the wrong message out of it, because it's not a drama talk, right? It's a didactic talk. And it happened, I think, because at one point, I think 2016, when Hollywood started becoming worried about the future of the world, and also, you read, like, Gen Z are very pessimistic, not only about the worst pessimistic generation in history, in documented history, about themselves and about the world. But executives in Hollywood started being very pessimistic about the world, but also they said, we have responsibility, and maybe we've done also wrong, because, for example, Veep in House of Cards maybe made us all perceive politicians as the most corrupted, cynical thing, and when Trump comes and said we should raise this swarm of Washington, you believe it because this is you. So suddenly, all the conversation around the table became very didactic about we should be careful with, and also because of competition, you're trying not to lose audience in the very first. Now, what happened, and it's very interesting. I think I call it the Queen Gambit rule, because what happened is that, of course, when the industry, let's take Hollywood again, like Hollywood was doing 200 shows a year, 150 shows a year, suddenly it jumped in 2022 to 600 shows a year. And there are not enough executives who are experienced with reading scripts. And there's a lack of executives, right? There's a shortage of executives. So they try to build the algorithms or the formula or the data-driven answers to what will work, because you're creating hundreds of shows that no one watches, and you also try to create an algorithm to the question of how do we make sure that there is a completion rate, because you invest $1 billion in a show and it has a completion rate, people staying till the end, 38%, it's not good enough. You want to have at least 50%. So they started building rules and it didn't work. And then they invented I think Netflix were the first to imply this, but last year, started saying, listen, before you enter the room, we don't have, right now, we're not going to read the script or a pitch. We want you to first tell us what's the one line that will be there on the platform. What is the one line on the platform? And maybe also, like, the one-liner that leads the trailer on the platform. And we want this one-liner to grasp the stakes and what the audience wants to happen and hope that will happen, and what the audience is afraid that will happen. What is the one-liner? And when you tell them the one-liner, they think, is it fresh? Is it unique? Is it something that had not been done? And I call it the Queen Gambit because I don't want to give an example of a thriller, which is easy. I want to give an example of Queen Gambit. You step into a room and tell them, will the orphan kid become #1 in the world in chess? And they say, oh, we're intrigued. This feels like a fresh, uplifting one, a new world we haven't seen. The second question they will ask you is, what is the more deeper emotional journey, and you would say, will the orphan kid find a family? She doesn't have a family, will she find a family? And the executive would tell you, it's not crucial enough. I mean, she's doing well without a family. Why is it so crucial for her, for the audience, that she will find a family? She was born without a family. And you would tell them, yeah, but she's addicted to the psychiatric painkillers that are killing her, or what? And she needs to save herself through find a family in order to save her life. And the third question would be, what's the closure of season 1? Because we want the audience to leave the series and saying, whoa, the streamer is great. I loved it. I had a good experience. And you would say, the orphan kid, and everything is one line. The orphan kid will not be number 1 in the world, she will be number 2 in the world, but she will find a family through her friends in the chess community in Brooklyn, in the shelter and the apartment. And then they will say, okay, this feels fresh, let's read a pitch and a script. And I mean, a lot of these rules became very dominant in all the conversation. But the ironic thing is that when the streamers are creating the mandates, they're able to tell you what we're looking for this year. When they're creating the mandates, the funny thing, the most successful shows, the most standout bold shows are those who did not obey any of these rules. This is why they feel fresh and they took risks. And everyone said no to them for 7 years or 10 years or 15 years. But when it will happen, suddenly it will be the number 1 hit, right?
So we'll go into the market further on, but now should we go into Euphoria and see, we're going to see 2 clips. One of the original version, and then the second one of the American version.
שנה ישראלית רציתי להיות מוזר, אבל כבר לא היה סיכוי. אז בגיל 16 סוף סוף החלטתי. עשית הכל כדי לעוף עם העיניים. שום סיבה, מה עוד אתה צריך? אבל מצער למה בגיל 16.
This is the feeling I have been searching for my entire life.
That was the first teaser. Sorry there wasn't a translation.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to But I think we could tell by the images, so the first obvious question is where did the idea come from? Why young people, why this idea?
So, crazy enough, when I started writing this, it was the juvenile jail, kids jail, and every executive said, wow, you're not writing, it's too dark. Then I started writing this. But, and then I left it, and now we did the juvenile jail finally. The thing is, at that point, as I told you, I was tagged as the guy who writes anti-war and espionage. I was tagged as an executive for a network that my life was, I was working on reality shows and fighting after every point of ratings, and I wanted to break all the rules, but also I wanted to be something that I'm not. I wanted to be the 17-year-old that I'm not. Sam, who was a writer, director, showrunner, was writing about himself, was writing about him as an addict teenager, but to me it was writing about my alter ego and trying to be the 17, because when I was 17, I was already obsessed with career, and I had a schedule, a meeting, I was trying to do television already. I never had time for that. But what happened is that I wanted to do, when I was watching Trainspotting or Requiem for a Dream, Gus Van Sant, Larry Clark, Elephant, Kids, I felt to myself like, wow, I would never be allowed to do such a thing, and I never do such a thing. So I said, well, this is what I want to try and do. Like Trainspotting meets Gus Van Sant and Larry Clark and kids and that. And I started, and I knew that I wanted to do emotional realism, and I knew that I wanted to do, but I started was 17 is the new 25 in so many ways when it comes to what you are exposed to. But then 40 is the new 25, at least I hope. But as then you're stuck for so many years in the same place, and I felt like what I wanted to explore is the idea that when you are an urban, secular teenager, and you don't have fire that burns from within, like the extremist religious idea that tells you what to do, or ideology that tells you what to do, you kind of have an emptiness that tells you that freedom is the toughest thing to handle. And this is what I wanted to explore, and I wanted to be worried about. And I wanted to talk about the trajectory of trauma and how trauma shapes, as a teen shapes your entire life. And the trauma of repressing your identity, for example, if you repress your identity. And I wanted to, and I wrote tons of just crazy things like looking for something is more exciting than finding it, and wanting something is more exciting than getting it. Because when we were kids, when I was a kid, it was so hard to look for something, right? Because you didn't have an answer in Wikipedia, or didn't find the song you want in a second in YouTube. So you were very creative, thinking, how would I find something? Then the idea of fluidity, not just sexual fluidity, but the idea of like, what would it feel to live in a world where you fall in love with someone who makes you feel cared for, regardless of boxing, the gender, or whatever. And I wanted to talk about how I wrote to myself, well, mostly a kiss is more exciting than and more thrilling than sex sometimes in that aspect. You need to reinvent romance, and there were tons of lists of so many ideas, and I thought, well, so let's try and build a commune of 9 characters who are 17, and one kid with a gun who's 13, and have them all. An audience doesn't know that the one thing that connects them is the fact that they had a trauma. They were all present in a party. They didn't know all of them each other necessarily, but they were in a party where a boy was stabbed to death and killed for nothing, and that's kind of their trauma. But the audience doesn't know that yet. But they were all, each of them, they all live everywhere but in reality. They escaped from euphoria to paranoia. And so then it was, even before the plot, it was about the idea of, let's create a language for this thing. And now, so you think, and back then we did a kind of this pilot one, the first version. We did it in Israel. Now, an episode of Euphoria at HBO would cost like one episode, like 5 seasons in Israel. So if we said, whoa, the short attention of the generation needs 100 scenes per episode, then the producer would say, 100 scenes per episode, nice, but you have a budget for 17 scenes per episode. So, okay, no short attention. Then we're saying, but we need, because it's an ensemble, we need a constant move of the camera. That the constant movement of the camera is the glue between the scenes. And we said, well, we don't have that. We can't shoot the whole thing with dolly and crane. But so a lot of this felt to me that, we will need to do this again later on in a different version, more solid version abroad. But it was all this kind of trying to say, well, we need. When you read all the list of ideas about what the show is, then you realize, it's a show about empathy again. And what does it need? It needs to be a nest, a very kind of warm nest that is out of space and out of time. And so you need this like moonish backlight and blue and blue and orange lights, the lighting should be very dynamic and colorful and everything, but no daylight. You start getting a sense of what you want to create, and how the visually depicting what the characters feel in this world. So, and only then, it's a rare case, only then you start writing. And I wanted, because I was working for a broadcaster for too long, just fighting reality shows ratings, I needed to break all the rules, but yet, even when you break all the rules, and imagine like, for example, Sam's beautiful script for episode 1 at HBO version, it is almost an impossible journey. There's one moment of compassion that helps you feel at the end, that the bicycle symbol will choose together, she finds love, and one of the ideas is that love at this age feels like every single moment of love feels like the last chance in life you're going to have to be loved, right? But the scene is like giving you a relief that says I've seen the worst, but still, and when we started writing and thinking of it, we knew that we were going to break the rules, and we were going to. Now the thing is, at that point, when you did a show, unlike films, and a lot of the most brilliant Brazilian films in cinema prove that the face of a teenage character as a lead can be the most beautiful, bold, artistic creation, and it's not a teen drama. But on television, every single executive will tell you, oh, the lead is a teen, so you have to obey a teen drama rules. So it needs to be didactic, and it needs this mature growing up. So everyone said no, but if it's teen characters, it should be a teen drama and everything like. So it was a struggle to get this made, the first version, and even then, I felt completely misunderstood, because if you're reading, it's 12 years ago, right, the first version, you read the critics, and they were all saying, for example, one of our characters, who Kat is based on, had a dating app on her phone. Now, it's before the Tinder age. There was a Grindr for the gay community, but there was no Tinder. And all the critics were saying, you can't believe a thing in the series, women would never use a hookup dating app. And I felt so misunderstood, because it shouldn't be realistic, it's emotional realism, right? And I felt like totally misunderstood, and I felt, okay, we need to reinvent this.
And how is the process to sell it from Israeli version to American?
Your failures are like so inspiring in the sense that you learn so much. It's not just saying it. We were walking around LA and trying to sell this, and first of all, finding a producer. Now, I've learned the most important rule about that. We were going to 10 producers, they all said no. The next producer said yes, I want an option. And the next producer was Alcon Films, which is a brilliant company. They did Blade Runner. And I thought to myself, wow, they want to get into high-end television drama. They have a lot of financing, they have power in the city, and they love it. Let's give it to them. And we were pitching it to 20 networks. 20 networks said no to it. And years later, a president of a network told me, Alcon Films are brilliant, are an amazing company, wonderful people, but they're not right for this DNA. And as an executive of a network, I know that I'm going to fight with you sometimes over the pilot for 8 years, right? 8 years a pilot can last and still in the tables. But when we greenlight a show, the only person who would truly be able to have a dialogue with you creatively as well, and guard you and make sure he points out when you make mistakes and you trust him, would be the producer. As an executive, I won't be able to truly influence with my notes and be sure that, so I need to have a producer who knows this DNA. And only when A24 came aboard and they were after Moonlight and Lady Bird and they knew this DNA, it started feeling like, okay, a network would trust this But again, like when we were pitching Euphoria, my friend Dan Cohen was pitching with his gang Stranger Things. And 20 networks said no to him for the same reason, because 20 networks said to Stranger Things that will one day become the most watched show on Netflix. 20 networks said no to it because everyone told him, you should make it into a point of view of the FBI guy, because it can't be a point of view of kids. Now, if he had done that, the show would never be what it is. And we were told, you know what, if you want to create Euphoria, you should do it more like Skins. And I said, well, I love Skins, but there's already Skins, and if I would say yes to Skins, I will be one of the 60 pilots that are not being made. I would get development funds, and it will never be made. The only way to be made is to have something that has not been done, the pro genre that has not been done.
We have under 15 minutes now, opportunities.
So when we talked earlier about why I think television is so exciting and why this is another way of life. And one thing is, I said, yeah, it's just the schizophrenia of we can be both alone and with 300 people and be executives and writers. But the most important thing, why I'm more excited about television right now than anything else, is the globalization that is not only our own mission, but is the right thing for the storytelling, and the right thing for the market, is the right thing financially, and for so many reasons. I think that for the first time, so first of all, let's admit, films, and I admire film, I love this journey of creating a film, but films, the film industry had never been global. It's about you creating a show about your community in Rio, and you're flying over to Japan and Poland to screen it. But it's not truly creating together. In television, we finally see something happening, that we are a community, we create together. I filmed a show in Morocco with my partners, and we had people from 10 different countries on set, filmmakers from 10 different countries speaking 7 different languages on set. And when we go to to TV festivals, the dialogue, where we all know the executives in Australia and Korea and Japan and South Africa and all over Europe and here, that the dialogue is truly not just about the sales like it is in books or films. The dialogue is creative. We can write together, we can create stories together. Now, the good thing is that today, first of all, financially speaking, when the networks are seeing, well, we have to create 600 shows a year in 2022, or now 450 shows a year in Hollywood, but it cannot go on with shows that cost $6 million per episode to $20 million per episode, because this is the American way. But then you see, well, Squid Games versus Stranger Things, launching the last season. Stranger Things cost 10 times the price. So suddenly Hollywood is also very intrigued about, well, maybe. And then they see that Gen Z sees themselves as citizens of the world. They want to be traveling abroad. They are in this journeys. They feel that, and the audience, the American audience as well, that was forcing all of us to see, because Hollywood was just creating American shows on American character, on American soil, speaking American language. And now suddenly they see, well, this is kind of getting boring. And when you bring something that is not just Emily in Paris, but truly the journey, and the more provincial you are, the more universal you are. And this is this is exploding because it gives you access to a setup you've never been, a world you've never been to before. So, and even, by the way, the crazy thing, like Americans, for example, older generation would never read subtitles. And now, young people are anyway putting subtitles even if when they are listening to English, because they're multitasking, doing tons of things while watching. So they're used to reading the subtitles, and suddenly they don't care about listening to a language they don't understand. So it opens the door to something that is and anyway, I mean, I think 50% of the Netflix content budget is going to a project overseas, and I think it's and I think this is where we're heading. Now it's our mission to be bold and to bring, and not only to make this a global journey, but also to be bold and reinvent. And if over there the industry is conservative and getting into conservatism in a way, and I think it is. I think like, you know, the 50s were the most awful time in Hollywood. It was all about the family values, and the 80s as well, all the Reagan era. All the characters needed to redeem themselves and fix themselves or whatever. And it did, I mean, there were no achievement there, but this is what helped overseas. Like Pedro Almodovar was born through this and got his attention, and then Tarantino, because of Pedro Almodovar, was able to invent this thing in the 90s. And it's cool. I think that if the industry over there is right now conservative, we have the mission to be bold and reinvent genres. And I think, I mean, whenever I have a chance to see Brazilian TV and I see and not all of the subtitles, when I do get to have the subtitles, I see all the roots for the bold choices of cross genres. Even if you would tell me yes, but we have like most of our, I mean, I think Global was doing incredible things in making, even in the most traditional, like Sobo, for example, even in the most traditional genres, reinventing things that no one had done in a language that no one had done. And I think this is our mission right now. I do find the project that I want to write myself, but I also try to do my best to work to find other voices and help them with our contacts or packaging or creative ideas to create shows in places that didn't have a chance, or countries that were doing, a lot of the countries, the talents would feel like the talents are stuck in films and they don't have the guts to move to television. I don't think it's time. I'm trying to convince them to do television together, and it's the most beautiful journey.
Before Lucas asks the last question, just because
I think is very easy. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always there, like I'm there. If I'm not reading, someone in the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucas.
I just want to know a little bit more.
I was talking about you on the press without knowing you, before knowing you.
I have an intelligent question and a silly question. I will start with the silly one. Which is your favorite character of the show and why?
I think that, so we were dealing a lot with the gender things, and the version that you know, I'll use the name, the version that you know, the gender issue is all over the story, and the boldness and the characters were in many. The brilliant thing that Sam did was allowing the actors the character to serve as a vehicle for the actors to express themselves. Like Hunter was doing Jules, was so dominant in building the character of Jules, and the whole. Now you have. To me, out of all the gender issues, what was always there was the trajectory of the drama and the Nathan and how his father's story was always there, even in a very different way in the original version. It was about the price you're paying for repressing your identity as a teenager, and because you see a character who is an antagonist the entire season, and then you realize eventually that there is a reason for that, and it's the repression that they're forcing us with our identity. So it was, but I love them all.
Okay, I think we have time. Just if you could share with us.
So the post-production of the Juvenile Jazz show was occupying me a lot. And this past few months, and we just finished the second season for No Man's Land for Hulu and Arte, and so it was, and it's especially in Hollywood, it's about, you know how it is, you're creating 6 pilots, and I think when I arrived for the first time in Hollywood, I went to hear a talk with J.J. Abrams. It was after he already did Lost, but it was before all the Star Wars. And he said, you must develop 10 projects when you're writing, write just one. But developing, you must develop 10 projects because you never know which one will get greenlighted when. And it's not because of you. Maybe you wrote something brilliant, but you don't know that there were 5 pilots on this subject that were failure, and no one would touch this subject now, right? So I'm finally now, after we just wrapped, both as writer and producer, we wrapped this year 5 shows, and now I'm in a clean slate trying to, my favorite part of our work is just a blank page, trying to draw a new story, and trying to work between the fact that my head always tells me no one would say no to this, no one would agree to this, because I already know this algorithm of the business side, but then fighting to say no, but this is what I want to write. So it's kind of.
I think this is it.